Hello students, welcome to session 3rd of your 2nd PUC NCERT chapter number 11, that is Biotechnology Principles and Processes. In the last session we did discuss regarding some of the tools of recombinant DNA technology. There we had discussed regarding the restriction enzymes, how many types of restriction enzymes are involved, what is the endonuclease, what is the exonuclease, what is the recognition site, and why the restriction enzymes are very much specifically acting on the recognition site and how they divide them into smaller fragments. After they divide the DNA into smaller fragments, how can we isolate them? How can we separate them using gel electrophoresis method? So much things we had learnt in last session. In today's session, we will be learning about cloning vectors. This is the third tool which is involved in recombinant DNA technology. That will be the cloning vectors. Now when it comes to cloning vectors, here most of times plasmid or bacteriophage. This is a virus which is affecting the bacteria, but we are not using its effectiveness, instead we are using its replicating ability. So plasmids or bacteriophage, when inserted into the host, they have the ability. Now the host yaudilli anta kelidre, it will be a bacteria. Both plasmid and bacteriophage have the ability to replicate at a very fast number. If you compare this plasmid or a bacteriophage, their number per cell is much more, so the replication is also very much high, as well as the number of copies produced by them, that is replicated copies or the particular gene of our own interest produced by them or replicated by them will be very much high. So that is why normally a plasmid or a bacteriophage is chosen for this particular process. When it comes to the process, here it involves a alien DNA which will be inserted into a plasmid or a bacteriophage, which undergoes replication to produce large number of copies. So that is how the process continues. Now first we should know what is cloning vectors, what are the features for cloning vectors to be chosen. So here we will be studying now about features of cloning vectors. First one will be the origin of replication. Which is short formly called ORI region anta karitare. ORI region or the origin of replication helps in starting the replication process. This starts the replication process. Second thing is, when an alien DNA is introduced into the ORI region, then only they initiates replication. So host ge now alien DNA na ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ there will be no replication, but it should be inserted only into the ORI region, which is having a specific recognition region or specific sequence. Only if you insert the alien DNA into the ORI region, then only the host will have the ability to replicate them. So that is about ORI or origin of replication. It helps in or it starts the replication process. Idu matra alde, there is one more function for this origin of replication, that is it helps in controlling the number of copies to be produced. So how many replicates you want, based on that one it controls the number of copies to be produced in the host. So whenever you select a vector, you should make sure that the ORI region have the ability to produce maximum number of copies. Then only the alien DNA inserted into this particular region will be much more successfully producing many more replicates. That is how the first feature of cloning, that is origin of replication, is useful. It is also called ORI, and this is a particular specific sequence present in the vector where if the DNA is inserted, it has the ability to initiate the replication and produce large number of copies. It does not only produce large number of copies, instead they also help in controlling the number of copies to be produced. For such purpose, a particular vector which is having the ability to produce higher number of copies will be selected for this particular purpose. So, second feature is selectable marker. Selectable marker function is to identify and eliminate non-transformants. They help in removing or eliminating. First they will identify whether it is a transformant or a non-transformant. If it is non-transformant, then those will be eliminated. That will be done by the selectable markers. So, it helps in identifying and eliminating the non-transformants, along with which it also helps in promoting the growth of transformants. First thing, they identify and eliminate non-transformants. At the same time, they promote the growth of transformants. Now, we should know what is transformant and what is a non-transformant. So, here a process called transformation is involved. Transformation means it is a process through which a alien DNA is introduced into the host. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಏಲಿಯನ್ DNA ಅನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಹೋಸ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಹೋಸ್ಟ್ ಯಾವುದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಅ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೀರಿಯಾ. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಹೋಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ದೇರ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ introduction of this alien DNA, those are called transformants. Those which do not have this alien DNA are termed non-transformants. So, selectable markers help in identifying the transformants and eliminates the non-transformants. Example for this will be some of the gene encoding antibody resistant or antibiotic resistant like ampicillin, tetracycline, kanamycin, chloramphenicol. These are the different antibiotic resistance, gene encoding for antibiotic resistance like ampicillin, tetracycline, kanamycin and chloramphenicol. All these are selectable markers for E. coli bacteria. All these are selectable markers for E. coli bacteria. Normally a E. coli bacteria is not resistant to any of the antibiotics. Because of using the selectable markers that involves gene encoding antibiotic resistance like ampicillin, tetracycline, kanamycin and chloramphenicol, now the bacteria is able to have a proper selectable marker. Naturally, E. coli do not have the ability to resist any of the antibiotics. So, that is about second feature, that is selectable marker. Ee selectable marker alli the ability or the function of the selectable marker is to identify and eliminate the non-transformants. At the same time, it promotes the growth of transformant. Transformation is a process through which a alien DNA is introduced into the host body, and that host is nothing but a bacteria. So, here examples will be gene encoding antibiotic resistant sites like ampicillin, tetracycline, kanamycin, and last one is chloramphenicol. These are the selectable markers for a particular bacteria, that is E. coli. Naturally, E. coli do not have any ability to resist the antibiotics. So, that is about selectable marker, which is the second feature. Third feature will be the cloning site. In cloning site, a linked DNA in a vector have a specific recognition site which helps the action of restriction enzymes. More the restriction sites, more will be the action of the restriction enzymes and more will be the production of fragments. So, first let us learn about a particular vector which is used for E. coli, that will be PBR322. So, this is the structure of a E. coli cloning vector, that is PBR322, a very important question in your examination. So, this is the structure and this is the region which is called ORI, and it is the region where the replication initiates. And here you can see that TET is the region which is resistant to tetracycline, and ampicillin or AMP is the region which is resistant to this particular antibiotic. Now, here we have to study that if at all there is a DNA which is inserted in this particular region, that is tetracycline, what happens is, due to the insertion here, the resistant ability of this cloning vector to the tetracycline will be lost, and it is called insertional inactivation. It is termed insertional inactivation. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎಯನ್ನು ಅಥವಾ ಏಲಿಯನ್ ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎನ್ನು ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ರೆಕಗ್ನಿಷನ್ ಸೈಟ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ಸರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ವೆಕ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ PBR322 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟೆಟ್ರಾಸೈಕ್ಲಿನ್ ಅನ್ನು ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಲೀಡ್ಸ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಸರ್ಷನಲ್ ಇನ್ಆಕ್ಟಿವೇಶನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ ಈ ಟೆಟ್ರಾಸೈಕ್ಲಿನ್ ಅನ್ನು ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಆಕ್ಟಿವೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ ದ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಟು ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಂಫಿಸಿಲಿನ್ that will be still retained. ಇಫ್ ಎಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಈ ಟೆಟ್ರಾಸೈಕ್ಲಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸರ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಆಂಫಿಸಿಲಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸರ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹಿಯರ್ ದ insertional inactivation will be restricted to this ampicillin. So here they will not resist ampicillin, but they have the ability to resist the tetracycline. So wherever there is insertion, it leads to insertional inactivation, and wherever there is insertion, it leads to formation of transformants, and wherever there is no insertion, it leads to formation of a non-transformant. Now when it comes to the differentiation, how can you differentiate whether there is insertion or not? That can be done by addition of chromogenic substances. Chromogenic substances helps in identifying the region where there has been a transformation or where there is no transformation. So that is the way of identifying whether the insertion has taken place or whether the insertion has not taken. When a recombinant DNA is inserted into a particular DNA sequence, especially in the beta galactosidase enzyme, becomes inactive and it normally produces this insertional inactivation. So when a recombinant DNA is introduced into an enzyme, beta galactosidase, it inactivates the enzyme and produces this insertional inactivation. So as I have told, whether to identify whether the plasmid has undergone this transformation or not, or insertion or not, we can use the chromogenic substances. So wherever in a vector, wherever there is insertion, if at all ಒಂದು ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಸರ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ that region will appear to be colorless, and wherever there is no insertion, that region appears to be blue in color. So using this chromogenic substance, we are now able to identify whether the recombinant DNA is properly inserted into the plasmid or not. Once again, to discuss regarding this cloning site. So for every particular bacteria, there is a particular cloning site. For E. coli, the cloning vector will be PBR322. In this PBR322, there are two different antibiotic resistant sites, that will be ampicillin and tetracycline. So tetracycline athwa ampicillin are resistant to particular antibiotics, that is tetracycline as well as ampicillin. If there is a particular insertion, alien DNA or a foreign DNA is introduced into this particular region, they will lose the ability to resist the tetracycline. If it is introduced into this particular recognition site, they will be losing their ability to resist ampicillin. So wherever there is insertion, it leads to insertional inactivation, that is due to the recombinant DNA will be inserted into an enzyme that is called beta galactosidase, which initiates the process of insertional inactivation. But we have to identify whether they have been undergone any transformants or they are still in the non-transformant form. So for this purpose, we use the chromogenic substances. Wherever there has been insertion or wherever there has been introduction of a alien DNA or recombinant DNA into a particular cloning site, that region appears to be colorless. Okay, wherever there is transformation, the region appears to be colorless, and wherever there is no transformants or non-transformant or there is no insertion, it appears to be blue in color. So ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ blue ಇದೆ that in a plasmid it means that wherever the color is blue there is no transformation, and wherever it is colorless it means that there has been introduction of a foreign or a alien DNA. So that's about cloning site, and the last feature will be the vectors used for this one. Normally there are two different vectors which are used. One is Agrobacterium tumeficans, and one more will be retrovirus. This Agrobacterium tumeficans, it is used as a vector in case of plants, and retrovirus it is used in animals. So this Agrobacterium tumeficans produces a tDNA which have the ability to convert the normal plant into a tumor producing, which produces chemicals which is necessary for the pathogen. Whereas in case of retrovirus, they have the ability to convert any of the normal cell into a completely cancerous cell. So these both are used as vectors. Now you might wonder that they have so much side effects, and why are we using it in plants as well as in case of animals. Here what we do is we disarm the vectors. Their ability to increase the pathogenicity in the host will be suppressed. Only their ability to replicate or increase the number of cells will be taken into consideration. Whereas in Agrobacterium tumeficans it is restricted to plants, and retrovirus it is restricted to animals. As I have already told, the Agrobacterium tumeficans tumor inducing ability, that is will be used to replicate the particular DNA or to increase the number of copies. Same in case of retrovirus, its ability to cause pathogenicity will be suppressed. Only its ability to increase, that is it will be normally disarmed before it is introduced into the animals. So these are the different features which are involved in cloning vectors. So different features will be, first one is the ORI region. So in ORI region you will be initiating the replication and controlling the number of copies. In selectable markers you will have the ability to identify the transformants and non-transformants, and non-transformants will be eliminated, and it promotes the growth of the transformants. Example for this will be gene coding antibiotic resistance like tetracycline, ampicillin, kanamycin or chloramphenicol. All these are resistant and can be found in a particular bacteria, that is these are the selectable markers for E. coli bacteria, where in natural condition these E. coli do not have any antibiotic resisting ability. Next was cloning vector. In cloning vector we did identify or we did see that a linked DNA is introduced into the vector at a particular recognition site, so for the action of restriction enzymes. More the recognition sites, more the action of restriction enzymes, and more number of fragments will be produced. So we did discuss regarding the diagrammatic representation of a E. coli vector, that was PBR 322, where we have chosen two different antibiotic resistant site, that was tetracycline and ampicillin. In these two regions, if at all in any one of the region there is insertion of this particular recombinant DNA, it inactivates the beta galactosidase enzyme and leads to insertional inactivation. Due to this insertional inactivation, we can identify whether it is a transformant or a non-transformant. Wherever there has been insertion in that particular region, their ability to resist against a particular antibiotic will be lost or it will be 0. Next, whenever you have to identify whether there is transformation taken place or there is no transformation, you can do it with the help of a chromogenic substance. So this chromogenic substances goes and binds to both the non-transformant and transformant region, giving out blue color to non-transformant region and retaining colorless in a transformant region. So, transformant can be separated from the non-transformant regions. Next one is vectors, and the vectors used for this will be normally Agrobacterium tumeficans in case of plants and retrovirus in case of animals. Both are pathogen to plants and animals, but their pathogenic ability will be suppressed and their increasing number or the proliferation ability will be taken into consideration. Agrobacterium tumeficans is a tumor inducing, which is a property which can be used in case of plants, and as I have told in retrovirus it will be disarmed, only their ability to increase the number will be taken into consideration. So, that is about different features involved in cloning vectors. Next we have to study about competitive host. In case of this competent host, normally a DNA will be hydrophilic in nature. A DNA is hydrophilic in nature. That means what? It cannot penetrate the cell membrane of the bacteria very easily. That is why a bacteria should be made competent so that it can accept this DNA, so that it can take up the plasmid into itself. The different methods will be, in first method you can add them with specific concentration of divalent cations, for example calcium. This helps in accepting, or this helps the bacteria to accept the foreign DNA via the pores of the cell wall. So, the ability of the bacteria increases to accept or take up the alien DNA. That is the first method where you are treating with specific concentration of divalent cations, example calcium, because of which one the ability of the bacteria to accept the foreign DNA increases through the cell wall pores of bacteria. Next method will be incubation. In incubation method, the recombinant DNA is first incubated in ice and then given a heat shock. This heat shock will be at a 42 degree centigrade, which is again transferred into ice. This hot cold or cold hot alternation leads to normally increasing the ability or efficiency of the bacteria to accept the DNA within it. That is the second method, which is called incubation method of recombinant DNA. And the third method will be micro injection. In this, the recombinant DNA is straight away inserted into the nucleus. So, there are micro injections where the DNA is straight away injected directly into the nucleus of the bacteria cell. So, that is how they transfer the particular alien DNA into the bacteria or the host. Fourth one is biolistic method or gene gun method, where the DNA will be coated with gold or tungsten. This is a particular type of method, that is biolistic or gene gun type of method. It is restricted to some of the plants. So, here the plant cell is bombarded with a DNA which is coated with a gold or a tungsten form, which straight away pushes the DNA directly inside the plant cell. So, this biolistic or gene gun method, where DNA will be coated with gold or tungsten, is bombarded on a plant cell, or it is restricted to plant cell. And the last method will be disarmed pathogen, where we have already studied about this regarding retrovirus in case of animals and Agrobacterium tumeficans in case of plants, where the pathogenicity of that particular organism will be suppressed and only its ability to replicate or transport will be taken into consideration. So, these are the different ways or methods by which we can produce a competent host. A DNA will be hydrophilic in nature, which makes it unable to get transferred into the bacteria. So, that is why what can be done, a bacteria can be made competent so that it can accept the foreign DNA. Different methods of making the host competent will be: one, by treating them with specific concentration of divalent cations, especially calcium. Another method is through incubation, where the recombinant DNA is incubated in ice, given a heat shock at 42 degrees centigrade, again transferring it into ice. So, this alternation of cold and hot treatment helps in increasing the efficiency of the bacteria to accept the foreign DNA. Third method is microinjection, where the DNAs are directly introduced into the host nucleus. Fourth one is biolistic or gene gun method. This is restricted to plant cell, where a plant cell is bombarded with DNA which is coated with gold or tungsten. And the last method is disarmed pathogen, where the pathogenicity of particular organism will be suppressed and only its ability to increase the number of copies will be taken into consideration. So, that is about competent host, and these are the different types of tools which are involved in recombinant DNA technology. It will be restriction enzymes, isolation of DNA, cloning vectors, cloning sites, vectors, and finally the competent host. So, that is all about different tools which are used in recombinant DNA technology. In next class, we will be studying about the process which is involved in recombinant DNA technology. Thank you.